Hello, everybody. Welcome to my first IT video here on my YouTube webpage. I'd like to first kind of just start to discuss kind of how to build, if you're new to Azure DevOps, how to work with queries. As you can see on this board, we've got quite a few queries here. Queries are a great way to be able to track your work throughout your project as a project manager and even as a DevOps or IT engineer. It is a great way to kind of see the health of your project and see where the bottlenecks are. As you can see, there's a lot of different types of queries that you can do: pie charts, tiles, basically showing what your query results show. But for this first video, we're going to go ahead and start off with the basics of how to create your first query. So first, to get to the query page, if you start off in Azure DevOps, I'd like to kind of show you where you would first land when you first come into Azure DevOps. First, you would probably land here on the projects page. In here, you're going to see all of your most recent projects that you've accessed, plus any of your projects that you've created in your license subscription. So to get to any one of your projects, you basically just go ahead and click on them. Project will load. And then you would go over here to the left-hand side toolbar, and queries are located underneath boards. And you can either hover over boards and scroll down and click queries, or you can simply click on boards. That'll open up the menu and select queries. Once you're here on the queries page, you're going to go ahead and see a couple different things. The first page you're going to see is your favorites page. Now, you can have as many favorites as you want here in Azure DevOps. These are going to be the queries that you're going to use the most, or things that you want to be able to query the most. Also, it's going to give you where you left off on your last query. If you want to see all of your queries, you would go ahead and click the All tab next here to New Query. And then this is going to give you a list of all of your personal queries that you've created in Azure DevOps for this particular project. And it's also going to show you any of the shared queries for the project. Now, by default in Azure DevOps, there are some queries that come out of the box, which are great to use. I do suggest kind of looking through some of those and seeing if that's a good starting point for the type of data that you want to recover. And of course, you got different folders that you can create to kind of organize all of your shared queries. And then if you don't pick a particular folder, all of your shared queries are just going to be listed here in alphabetical order. And it'll show you who was the last person who updated the query. And then, of course, it'll give you some more actions here. And the stars mean that that's what you want to add to your favorites. And I can add any of these. If I like some query that John made, I can go ahead and select this star here. And then that would actually add to my queries page. So let's go ahead and create our first query. To start your first query, you simply go ahead and click the New Query button. This will land you on to the query editor. Now, by default, Azure DevOps gives you two different fields or do two different query statements right off the bat. First one is work item type, and then the second one is state. So to kind of read this, you would basically look at what field are you trying to query for. And there's a couple different queries that you can go ahead and select from. You know, work item type, and basically all of these are different fields within the work item type. Next one is the operator. So what do you want to do with this work item or this particular field that you're querying for? Do you want it to make it equal any value that's in this field that you're about to put? Do you want them to not equal that field? Do you want it to be greater than, less than? And contains, does not contain? And there's several different types of operators here that will give you that flexibility to be able to query on that information. The same thing here with so on the first statement, you're actually looking for what work item type equals any. That means that it's going to look through your entire project and bring back any item, no matter what type of item. Next statement that it has is, give me any work item in my project, and the state of that work item can equal any. So basically, these two conditions have to be true to be able to bring information back into this query panel. So I always suggest, as you're building your queries, to go ahead and run the query quite a few times as you're building your query. You get used to kind of doing this because it tests your logic and it helps you kind of find where the break in the logic is that's causing the error. So as you add new statements, you can go ahead and hit run query. If that last statement that you put in there is not bringing any results back, or it's bringing back the incorrect results, that could be the first place to start to try to fix your query and bring back the information that you would like. So as you can see here, I've run the query, and right now it's bringing me back any of the close items and any type of item back into this query. And this is the most basic query to start with. It's basically going to give you everything. This is sometimes a good way to look for things if you don't know exactly what you're looking for. You can definitely filter these columns and basically sort them correctly. Now that I've just hit on state and I filtered it or sorted it, it's going to give you all of the active items first and then all of the close items. So right now in this project, we've got a lot of, we've got 3 active risks. Everything else is closed. Another thing that you can do is you can use filters, and filters will allow you to go ahead and filter even further down onto your query. So since this is the basic start of building your first query, we're going to keep this very simple. Because I know after running this first query that everything else in this query or everything else in this backlog is closed currently, I want to go ahead and filter on anything that is currently active. I want to see what's left in the backlog. So to do this, you would want to leave your work item type equaling any, because you want to bring anything that is active into your query. But then you want it to actually anything that doesn't equal the state of closed. So to do this, you're going to want to change your operator. You're going to want to keep your state because that's what you're looking for. That's your definer. And then you're going to go ahead and select does not equal to. And then here you would actually select the value that you don't want to see. So for this one, since I don't want to see the closed items, I'm going to select closed. I'm going to go ahead and run the query. And now it's bringing me back everything that is any other state rather than closed. These are some very basic, simple queries, but to get these fundamental down when you're starting to build queries, I think is the most important to understand what you're actually asking the system to bring back to you. So now that I've actually brought back everything that is currently active in the project, let's just say I only want to see the work item type as user story. I only want to see requirements in my backlog. To do that, you would go ahead and keep your state the same because you still want to be able to see items that are, any items that are not closed in your backlog. But now all I want to see is the user stories. So you would keep it as work item type equals, select the dropdown, and now you're going to scroll or search for user story. Select that, go ahead and run the query, and now you see that you only see 2 user stories. It's filtering out all of those other items that are either active, new in the backlog. Couple tips that I would give people first starting. When you're building your query, make sure you start with kind of like a top-down approach. So, or like the first item that you're really interested in, like the type of work item. You don't really want to go with states first or random tags that you're looking for first. If you know what type of work items could be possible in that particular backlog that you're looking for, I would always start with the work item type first. Then from there, go down to the state and continually, progressively get a little bit more complex in the queries that you're adding. That way, it's kind of a little bit easier to follow. If you start with tags or something kind of obscure in your first statement, people are going to have a tough time following your query logic. And if someone needs to come by and help you troubleshoot, if you're looking at tags first versus work item types, it's going to be their first thing they're probably going to do is have you reorganize your query. Also, to add anything new, as you can see, you would want to click this plus sign here. So you would click Add New Clause. So as you add new clauses, you can go ahead and get even more detailed on what kind of filtering or what kind of information that you want to bring back. You can link these clauses together. Another thing that you can do is have a and or statement. So when you're talking about and means that all of the top clause plus this second clause must be true, right? So both of these must be true, and then give me back that information. If you put the or in there, I could say, give me any work item type equaling, so if I switch this to or and remove this, so right now I'm asking it, give me any work item type, or give me a work item type equal to user story, or give me any work item that has the state not equal to closed. So either one of these could actually, it's going to be looking for. So if we run the query again, now we're actually getting more information because it first looks at the first clause and then tries to provide you that information, or look at what I'm trying to filter on the second clause and bring me back that information as well. But in future queries, I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit more detailed on those particular items. But I do suggest, like I said, kind of have a specific logic when you're building the queries. Start with the work item type and work your way down, all the way down to tags if that's what you're using, or update fields. Run the query consistently and constantly as you build new clauses. Go ahead and feel free to run this query as many times as you'd like. That's your way of kind of making sure that your logic is correct and it's bringing back the correct information. Plus, it'll help ID early issues as you're building out your more complex queries. A couple other things I'd like to point out. There's quite a few little icons here. They all do kind of some different things. Right now, we're in the editor tab. This allows you to be able to see what your query logic is, bringing back the data. The results tab simply just displays all the information without the editor. And most of the time, it will give you this display window to be able to see. Once you click on a specific item, it's going to show you what's in that. Once you select a specific work item, it's going to display that information here on the right-hand side. Once again, like I said, you go to the editor, that shows you the logic. Charts, the only way to create charts is if the query is saved. And if you wanted to actually put this query in as a widget on the dashboard, it does need to be a shared query. So this is disabled until I actually save my my query. If I like what it's bringing back to me, which I don't right now because I was giving you guys the example of the or statement. Let me just switch that back to and run the query. Now it's just giving me work item equals user story and the state does not equal closed. So right now it's giving me all of the user stories in the backlog that do not have the state of closed. So if I like this, I go ahead and click Save Query. This is where you can go ahead and save your query name. I do suggest be very logical with your names. Don't make it something really obscure. Be very basic with your names and try to state as well as you can what the purpose of this query is. So for like, say this one, since we're looking for active user stories in the backlog, that could be a perfect name for this particular query. So active user stories. Here in the folder section, this is going to give you the option to be able to select My Queries, keep it personal to yourself, only you can use it, or you can go ahead and hit Shared Queries. That will allow you to share it with the rest of your team. So for this one, let's go ahead and just select My Queries, click OK. Now that it's been saved and the name is now populated here, you can go ahead and select this star to actually have it as a favorite if you want to continually go back to this query and have it on the quick access menu. Also here, you can create charts. Now that it's been saved, you can actually select here or select here on the new chart or here on the new chart button to be able to create new queries. Another couple things, buttons that I want to point out. If you don't like the name, you can go ahead and select or rename. This allows you to rename the query and select OK. If you have a query that you like and you like the beginning of it, but you want to make it a little bit more complex, you can use the Save As feature. So if I wanted to keep this, but I wanted to make it a little bit more robust and add in a little bit more work items that I'm querying for, but I want to call it something different because now I'm not just looking for user stories, I'm looking for user stories and risks. That's where you could start with this one, select the Save As, and then rename it so you don't save over the query that you already have, and it's kind of a quick shortcut to start your queries. A couple other things, column options. This allows you to add as many columns as you'd like in your particular query. I will get a little bit further into detail on you need specific columns to be shown to be able to create charts on that data. So if I left it as is right now, these are the only columns that I would be able to create charts out of. And of course, then you can, by default, you can have a default sorting. So right now it's default sorting by the state. So it's actually going to go ahead and give you active and then in alphabetical order what you're sorting by state. You can go ahead and add more sorting by selecting the add the column. But if you did want to add a column, like I say, with being a project manager, story points are very helpful to try to figure out how much more work is left. You go ahead and hit add column here, and you can just start typing in the column that you're looking for, or you can go ahead and click the drop down, and then that'll allow you to scroll and select it. These can be moved up and down by clicking on all these little dots, clicking and holding, and then you can drag it up to a specific position that you would like. Click OK, and then that'll refresh your query and allow you to see the new column that you've added to your particular query that you're working on. Save items. So if you're doing bulk changes and there's a lot of information in your query, Azure DevOps will ask you to save those particular items before you move away from the page. So this save items is a way where you can save all of the information at once that you've been editing instead of going to each individual one and click and save on it. Email query, this is very useful. This is if you like the query information that you built, especially me as a project manager. This allows me to build a query and go ahead and email it to myself and then email it to other people in my company or clients to provide them the information in a very nicely presented email of kind of what's kind of going on with the project. Copy URL. This is where you can go ahead and copy this URL and share it with other people. As you can see, the URL will expire in 90 days. This is just allows people to be able to share this query with other people. Export to CSV. So that's going to allow you to export to Excel and CSV files to be able to go ahead and manipulate the data in Excel. And of course, here, especially how ours is set up, there is an actual open up in Excel button. I will get into that later in future videos of how to pull down a query from Azure DevOps and manipulate it and resave it using Excel. That's very helpful. So thank you guys. Thank you for taking the time and looking at this first video. If you like what you're seeing, please hit that subscribe button. If you have any suggestions on future videos that you'd like to see, please put some comments down in the comment section. I will try to look at them consistently and try to put out a video at least once a week, and try to give you guys feedback and kind of get you guys going on building queries and using Azure DevOps. Thank you so much. You guys have a great rest of the day.